Team, checking in with you. It is a rainy morning in August. I'm out with the revision retrievers. I'm wondering if you can hear the rain on the top of my umbrella. And I'm hoping it creates a nice ambient sound for this podcast. I got to do it. It's part of a new routine, so always doing a quick podcast whilst I'm out with the revision retrievers, taking them for their morning walk. They're both having a good time in the rain. I think they quite like it. Different vibe from the hot summer we've been having. So today I wanted to talk about a video that I watched last night. It was by Sky News, and it was the classic video where, and all the mainstream media do this, and some social media channels as well actually, but in a less polished format. They interview usually GCSE students, sometimes A-levels, often exams which have been recently changed by the government that are perceived to be harder or confusing or just not right. And then the students on the, in front of the camera will just give their view on it. And I empathise with that because they're just told, they're briefed in. I worked in media, I know how these things work. They'll be given a brief about questions they can talk about or aspects of the exams they can talk about, and then they'll be given a few questions, and then the sound bites will be taken from what they say and then aired to the public. And these two students, perfectly nice chaps, one of them was talking about stress, totally get it, empathise with that. The other one was talking about confusion in the GCSE grading system. So what's the difference between a 5 and a 6? What's the difference between an 8 and a 9? Is a 9 a double A star? Is an 8 an A star? What's going on there? So the punchline to this is, I have empathy for the stress, right? I get it. It's a stressful time. Exams are stressful. I think the mindset that you have to be in is, acknowledge that it's stressful, but also acknowledge that you can do something about it, and that just by complaining or getting negative, this student was saying that he couldn't speak, he's got no words because he's so stressed. And I think, okay, on the one hand, that's not good to hear, but on the other, they're not going to change the exam system. At least in the year that you do it, they're not going to change it. If you're listening to this right now and you've got GCSEs within the next couple of years, they're going to stay the same. So you have to figure out, okay, these exam things, I've got to do them. How can I get through them and try and take as many lessons as possible? If you just learn the one lesson on how to handle pressure, if that means you don't even actually do that well in your results, like maybe you get a few 2s, 3s, that kind of stuff, but in the exam, you're relaxed, you can deliver, you can at least try your best. I think that's a skill worth learning. And obviously, the degree to which that skill becomes a little bit more valuable is if you're actually able to put in a high quality performance in addition to being able to handle the pressure by staying relaxed and calm. So I think the other point I want to make here is the first one that I've just made, just to hammer it home. Don't complain. Deal with what's in front of you. Figure out a way to handle it. The second thing is, I think a lot of students look at the grade boundaries and then create unnecessary confusion for themselves because, and I don't know whether it's, I know I did this sometimes. I would ask a teacher something, and if there was any lack of clarity in terms of, what's an A, what's a B, what's a C, that kind of thing. When I did exams, it was ABC, all that kind of stuff. I think what happens is that I sometimes got into the blame culture. Like if the teacher couldn't give me a straight answer verbally about differences in grade boundaries, I would say, that it's unclear. I don't know what I'm aiming at. I think you can flip that mentality, so you take the teacher out of the equation, because I know a teacher can be a variable sometimes. There are a lot of great teachers out there. There are some poor teachers out there, and it's luck of the draw, right? It depends which one you get. But there's going to be documents, papers, things that teachers get given at the beginning of the year that define the differences between the grade boundaries, so you know what you have to do. It's like your spec list. You just execute against that. I see it as a menu in a restaurant, right? Each of them are recipes. Each grade boundary is a recipe. The 9 is a recipe for a Michelin style meal. It's pretty tough to follow. There's a lot of different nuances. There's special things you got to be doing. There's, contextual evaluation. I'm talking about exams now, but let me try and think of a Michelin star flourish on a meal. But perhaps there's like a specific sauce or garnish you got to make, which is really tough. Or like a souffle. I know I'm not Gordon Ramsay by any stretch of the imagination, but it always seems in all the cooking programs, if someone's doing a souffle, everybody goes mental and is like, whoa, this could go terribly wrong, this could be amazing, kind of thing. That's the grade 9. That recipe. You just need to follow that recipe. But it's a tough one to follow. You've got to work at it. You've got to refine your approach. And then maybe the 2 is, that's just a fry-up. You crack everything in the pan, boom, Bob's your uncle, you're done. Nice cheeky fry-up. But, you can't really mess up a fry-up that badly. I mean, I could do one. All right, again, I'm not Heston, I'm not Jamie Oliver, and I'm not G. Ramsay, but, I could back myself to do a decent fry-up and be on that 2 grade boundary, for example. So, think about it like a recipe book, and that's all you need from your teachers. And then there should be no confusion, right? You know what you need to do. You look at the sheet of paper. Yeah, you might ask them a few follow-up questions. So, for example, if it says compare and contrast or analyze or evaluate, you might want to ask your teacher, okay, what could you give me an example of that? Like, what does that look like? And what am I doing right now that doesn't quite hit the mark that I need to change in order to get that grade boundary higher? Third and final point to this one, which I think just negates the 2 that I just said, because it comes from such a positive mindset that it doesn't really matter how tough the situation is or what the nuances between the grade boundaries are. You just don't really care, because all you're going to do, taking on board this third and final point, is it doesn't matter what the exams are, whether they're tough, hard, easy. You just play it because you're trying to go as high as you can. You don't set your expectations in relation to kind of mid-level standards. You just try and see how far you can go. Can I get 100% in the exam? Let's go. I think I in one history exam, I remember I think I got 99 out of 100 on a history exam. I never thought that was possible. And yeah, I wasn't amazing at history. I did it at uni. It was my favourite subject. But by no means was I that guy who had my nut in a history book from the age of 3. All I did was I didn't really pay attention much to grade boundaries. I just thought, okay, how good can I make this essay? How high can I go? How perfect can I make it, and structure it out so it's really, really super clear? And obviously look at that, what's required for the top grade. Just try and get as close to that as possible. Just set huge expectations for yourself and you'll be in a good spot. To summarise, aim for the top and you don't look at the rest of how big the jump is. You're just looking at the top the whole time. Whoa, navigating some bushes here. Here we go. Sorry guys, this podcast is rogue in that I am literally in the middle of a woods right now with 2 crazy revision retrievers running around. But yeah, just aim for the top and all the kind of hurdles in between fade away when you're just setting yourself real high standards. And then you don't have the chance to complain, get negative, or get your head in a bit of a mix because of the difference between a 5 and a 6. Just look at, okay, what's the gold standard? How do I get as close to that as possible? And you'll be in a good spot. Set high standards for yourself. You've got to believe you can do this to actually even have a decent crack at it first. So, come on, we can do it. If you put in the work, if you make the effort, if you apply yourself and think about it logically, you'll be in a superb position. I'm checking out.